afternoon. My name is Kayla Griffin. I'm honored today as Vice President of the Class of 2013 to welcome our distinguished guests to this year's Veterans Day program. First, I would like to thank the administration for allowing this to be possible, Mr. Ryan Harold for coordinating the event, and of course, our veterans for taking the time to attend. It is my wish that every individual from every walk of life could experience the privilege of addressing the very men and women who preserve our exceptional way of life and ensure the freedom of everyone in our great nation. Veterans Day is truly one of the most intelligent things a government has ever done. It is imperative that the heroes of this nation know our respect, gratitude, and loyalty. Today, we intend to make known the sacrifice and bravery of our men and women at arms. One of history's most battle-hardened generals, George Patton, put it best when he said, "Wars may be fought with weapons, but they are won with men." Today, we will recognize each branch of our armed forces and remember the tremendous service to our nation. We will commemorate the men and women who guarantee our liberty by their duty. I would like to express my sincerest appreciation to all who have served our country, and on behalf of the class of 2013, I would again like to welcome you to this year's program. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Barnett. I'm going to introduce to you the National Anthem. The National Anthem is played before every home basketball game, before our varsity team plays here at Austin High. In 1814, on September 14th, Francis Scott Key, a 35-year-old amateur poet and lawyer, wrote the poem Defense on Fort McHenry, which later became known as our national anthem, titled The Star-Spangled Banner. The morning of September 13th, the British bombardment on Fort McHenry had begun. Francis Key watched the red glare of the rockets fly through the sky and prayed Fort McHenry would still be left standing. The 25-hour bombardment had finally come to an end on September 14th, 1814, when all had fell silent long before daylight. As the sun began to rise and the smog began to clear, the 42-foot-long flag with 8 red stripes, 7 white stripes, and 15 white stars was still flying proudly in the sky, as it had been the night before. Inspired by the sight of the large flag and the knowledge of the fort had not fallen, Francis Scott Key took out an envelope lettered and started to scribble on the back of it. The first stanza of Key's poem, Defense of Fort McHenry, and the large flag with 15 stripes and 15 stars came to be known as the Star-Spangled Banner. The Star-Spangled Banner was recognized for official use by the Navy in 1889 and by President Woodrow Wilson in 1916, and was made our national anthem by Congress on March 3, 1931. At this time, please rise as Kayla Griffin performs our national anthem, accompanied by the Austin High School Band under the direction of Jason Hoagland.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch, we're so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, they prove through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet
Good afternoon. My name is Camry Howard, and I am here to lead all of you in the Pledge of Allegiance. As a current high school student, I recite the Pledge of Allegiance on a daily basis. As I listen to my peers and myself recite the Pledge of Allegiance, I have not helped to discover how monotonous it has become. Today I've decided to remind my fellow peers on how important the words of the Pledge of Allegiance mean to our country, our veterans, and us as individuals. The definition I am about to present comes from a man named Red Skelton. Since his definition, the words "under God" have been added to our Pledge of Allegiance, and 2 states have been added to our country. I would now like to present the definition of the Pledge of Allegiance. I, meaning me, an individual, a committee of one. Pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance, my love and my devotion. To the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there is respect because your loyalty has given her dignity that shouts freedom, is everybody's job. Of the united, that means we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose, all divided with imaginary boundaries, yet to a common cause, and that's love of our country. Of America and to the republic, a state which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people. For which it stands, one nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, and the right of power to live one's life without threats or fear or any sort of retaliation, and justice, the principle and the quality of dealing fairly with others, for all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. Please let this be a reminder on how important the words of the Pledge of Allegiance are. Now, will ladies and gentlemen please remove their hats, if not in uniform, face the flag, and place your right hand over your heart while joining me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Hello and good afternoon. My name is Brianna White, and I am a senior member of the Austin High School Show Choir Dimensions. Today, we will be performing for you Soldier, written by Stephen Curtis Chapman and arranged by Mark Breimer. Thank you, and please enjoy the rest of the program.
When you are a soldier, I will be your shield, and I will go with you into the battlefield. And when the arrows start to fly, take my hand and hold on tight, 'cause I will be are surrounded. The enemy is closing in. I will fight with you to the end. And when you're lost in darkness, I will hold the light, and I will help you find your way through the night. And I'll remind you of the truth and keep the flame alive in you. And I will be your shield. Yes, I will be your shield. When you are a soldier, a soldier. When you are a soldier.
Good afternoon. My name is Jesse Satterwhite. Veterans Day, also known as Armistice Day, is the day of remembrance for those who have served our country. Armistice Day marks the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, when the Germans signed the armistice that ended World War I. President Wilson first established Armistice Day in 1919, although it was not made an official holiday until 1938. In hailing the end of the war, President Wilson proclaimed, "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service, and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us, and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of nations." In June of 1954, President Eisenhower signed a congressional act declaring Armistice Day as Veterans Day, a day that would be dedicated to those who serve our country and fight to protect our rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. A day during which we honor those brave men and women who have sacrificed so much so that we may live in what is without a doubt the greatest nation on earth. We must remember and thank the millions of Americans who have fought and continue to fight for the protection of our rights, for it is because of them that we have the freedoms we enjoy every day. It is because of the sacrifice of all the veterans in the United States of America that we are able to set out to achieve the dreams that we have so long yearned for. Veterans, it is because of you that we live in the greatest country on the entire globe, and for that, we owe you a tremendous thank you. On behalf of Austin High School, I would like to thank you all for the service you have done for us all. God bless you, and thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Rice. On June 14, 1775, history created one of the largest and oldest branches of the armed forces ever to exist in the United States, the U.S. Army. The modern Army grew from what once was known as the Continental Army before the establishment of the United States, and was born to accommodate the ever-growing demand during the American Revolutionary War. After the war, though, the Continental Army was quickly disbanded due to Americans' distrust of irregular state militias and of standing armies. In 1874, Congress created the official United States Army. Our former president, Dwight D. Eisenhower, officially adopted the United States Army flag on June 12, 1956. On June 13th, Vice President Nixon presented the flag at Washington, D.C. The United States Army flag is made up of the national colors of red, white, and blue, with a golden fringe. It still has the standard size of 4 feet, 4 inches in height, and 5 feet, 6 inches in length. It bears 145 streamers of ribbons to represent the campaigns in which the Army has participated in since its conception in 1775. The flag is made up of white silk upon which a replica of the official seal of the War Office is embroidered in blue. Underneath the seal is a scarlet scroll bearing this inscription in white letters, United States Army. Beneath the scroll, the inscription bears the date of 1775, the year in which the Army was created, with the appointment of General George Washington as Commander-in-Chief. We, the members of Austin High School, would like to thank all of the veterans for your honor, protection, respect, selfless service, and personal courage. May God bless you all. Unfortunately, last year, one of our peers died in a car wreck. His name was Matt Nugent, and he was in line to be in the United States Army. He had all of the qualities of the heroic man in the Army. He was courageous, compassionate, determined, selfless, and responsible. Whenever someone was sad or upset, he was there to listen and offer his advice. He was genuine and a wonderful friend. He did not get to give his services to the country as he had hoped, but he was a hero in every way, every single day at Austin High School. I will now call the names of former and current members of the United States Army. Please rise and stay standing when your name is called, and hold your applause until all names have been called. Jack Hanner. Cheyenne Cole, who is standing in place for Rocky Vyers. Harold Cutshaw. Erica Nugent, who is standing in place for Matt Nugent. Alvin Strauss. Hobson Andrews. W. Lee Bridgewater. Ned Smith. Johnny White. Carl McIntosh. Denver Bowling. Max Huckleberry. Samuel Hammonds. Lloyd Meeks. Clarence Breedlove. Raymond Fulkerson. Kenneth Burns. Nick Pastrick. James R. Jones. Max Mickelson. Wilbur Monroe. Rick Skull. Donald Davidson. Eric Campbell. Isaac Eversole. William Biggs, who will be standing in for William Kendall. Lee Watts. Delbert Meeks. Justin Roman. Irene Johnson, who will be standing in place for Alfred Alkie Johnson. Richard Horde. Larry Couch. Roy McKillop. Thank you for your service to this country.
Good afternoon. My name is Alexis Kennedy, and I'm here to introduce the United States Marine Corps. The Marines were originally created and known as the Continental Marines on November 10, 1775. Since then, they have become what we now know as our United States Marine Corps. Around 1883, after the Marines held the front lines in Korea, while our country was mobilizing for war, the motto Semper Fidelis, Latin for always faithful, was coined. The Marines have served in every American armed conflict since they were organized. Not only have they been there to fight in our nation's battles, but they've helped our country's citizens with numerous disaster relief efforts. The most recent of these disasters was Hurricane Sandy. On October 29th, the streets of Queens, New York were flooded and winds were over 80 miles per hour. A transformer blew in a home on a street in Rockaway Beach, causing a massive fire that soon spread to 111 other houses. Rescue workers trying to save a few trapped civilians became trapped as well. A total of 14 were stranded in the storm. So a detective from the New York Police Department called for the help of the 6th Communications Battalion, 4th Marine Logistics Group of Brooklyn, New York. 3 Marines and a Navy corpsman, Sergeants Alan Donaire, Michael Roy, and Jorge Negron, along with Petty Officer 2nd Class Matthew Politano, a hospital corpsman, with permission, authorized the use of 2 7-ton trucks to help rescue the helpless civilians. They described the scene of burning buildings and terrible storm as something that looked like the road to Armageddon. After 5 hours of pure bravery, loss of communications due to the storm, and absolute dedication, these men, who were primarily communications workers, helped save all 14 civilians. Lieutenant Colonel Richard Bordenero, inspector instructor for the 6th Communications Battalion, had this to say: "The conditions were dangerous. Some first responders had already been trapped, but the Marines went out and performed. They knew they were saving people's lives." This brand of courage, this brand of commitment and caring characterizes the U.S. Marine Corps. This is exactly what the Marines were created to do. They have trained, fought, and dedicated their time since the very beginning to help save lives and preserve our rights as a nation. We are here today to honor the brave men and women who have fought the battles and even given their lives for us. We are here to recognize the fighters, the unfound, and the fallen. And now it is my honor to introduce to you our United States Marine Corps. Please hold your applause until all names have been called. Jack Munt. Larry Stidham. John Phillips. Billy Turner. Larry Donahue. Charles Kelly. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Hannah Furnish, and I'm here to talk about the United States Navy. The United States Navy is the Naval Warfare Service branch of the United States Armed Forces. The Navy traces its origins all the way back to the Continental Navy, which was created during the American Revolutionary War. The United States Constitution provided the legal base for military force by giving Congress the power to provide and maintain a navy. Currently, our naval forces make up a large part of our armed forces with 318,406 men and women on active duty. However, 3,600 of these great men and women are currently deployed. The Navy has 287 deployable battle force ships and 3,700 plus naval aircrafts. We celebrate the birth of our Navy on October 13th, not only to remember the beginning of our Navy, but also to remember the brave men and women who have served before and who are currently serving our naval forces now. I would also like to remember my grandfather, Robert M. Crafton, who fought in World War II. I'd also like to acknowledge my Uncle Jack Munt, who fought in Vietnam as a Marine, and my father, who served in the Navy for 4 years. I will now announce the past and current members of the United States Navy who are present today. Please stand when your name is called and hold all applause until all names have been called. Donald Furnish, Jr. Kenneth G. Couch. Lester Crane. James Hale. Virgil Barrett. Ralph Coulter. Robert Cray. Delmar Nicholson. Bob Lingda. Robert Hubbard. Don Buchanan. Chuck Gabbard. James Turner. Willie R. Wooten. Eunice Haney, standing in honor for Tom Haney. Ruby Andrews, standing in honor for Blonde Andrews. Donna Akers. And Dan McLean. Thank you for your services, and you may be seated.
Good afternoon. I'm Alexa Hensley, and today I'll be introducing to you the United States Air Force. Before we begin, I would like to thank you all for attending today's Veterans Day program. On August 1st, 1907, a small aeronautical division was formed by the U.S. Army Signal Corps for the purpose of taking charge of all matters pertaining to military ballooning, air machines, and kindred subjects. This division was made up of 8 balloons and, as of a few months later, a small airship. At Fort Myer, Virginia, the Signal Corps tested its first airplane on August 20th, 1908. The Army, after improving the Wright Flyer, produced by the Wright brothers, formally accepted its first airplane, known simply as Airplane No. 1, on August 2nd, 1909. 9 years later, shortly after the beginning of World War I, President Woodrow Wilson changed the Aviation Division under the Signal Corps for 2 agencies under the Secretary of War. On May 24, 1918, the War Department officially recognized these agencies as the Air Service of the U.S. Army. By the end of World War II, the United States Air Force had become its own independent military organization. My grandfather, Jimmy Strong, was a member of the United States Air Force beginning in October of 1951. He was shipped to Tachikawa, Japan, where he served our country for 4 years. After basic training, he was a supply clerk, then moved to Airman First Class after discharge. During his years in the Air Force, my grandfather earned 5 awards. Today, as we pay tribute to all veterans, I am proud and honored to introduce to you the veterans of the United States Air Force. Please rise when your name is called and hold all applause till the end. Robert M. Crafton. Tom Sexton. Wayne McLean. Ron Martin. Jane Skillen. Paige Gent, standing in for the late Jim Strong. Chuck Grebitz. Tom McCandless. Jim Church. To the veterans of the United States Air Force who have served our country and to those who are currently serving, thank you. You may be seated.
Good afternoon. My name is Karita Barrett, and I will be introducing the U.S. Coast Guard. The Coast Guard all started on April 4th, 1790, created by the Department of Treasury. The Coast Guard received its name on January 28, 1915. This provided the nation with a single maritime service dedicated to saving life at sea and enforcing the nation's maritime laws. The Coast Guard is one of the oldest organizations of the federal government. The Coast Guard protected the nation throughout its long history and served proudly in every one of the nation's conflicts, such as War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. It is still today one of its most important functions. The Coast Guard describes itself as a military multi-mission service within the Department of Homeland Security dedicated to protecting the safety of America. Their motto is Semper Paratus, which means always ready. The Coast Guard flag was created for the ensign of the original. The emblem is the blue eagle for the coat of arms of the U.S. on a white background. Above the eagle are the words United States Coast Guard. Below the eagle is the motto, along with 1790. Like other branches of the military, the Coast Guard has core values, which are used for ethical guidelines. Number 1 is honor, absolute integrity. A Coast Guardsman honors all things, never lying, cheating, or stealing. Do the right thing all the time. The second is respect. Value the dignity and worth of people. Whether a stranded boater, an immigrant, or a fellow Coast Guard member, honor, protect, and assist. Number 3, devotion to duty. A member is dedicated to the maritime rows, safety, law enforcement, environmental protection, mobility, and national defense. The Coast Guard also has 11 statutory missions, which include migrant interdiction, defense readiness, drug interdiction, ports, waterways, and coastal security, law enforcement, search and rescue, aid to navigation, living marine resources, marine protection, and icebreak operations. I would now like to introduce the member of Coast Guard who are with us today. Please stand when your name is called. Dell Roberts. Thank you for serving for our country.
Good afternoon. My name is Jasmine Levins. The National Guard is the oldest component of the armed forces of the United States and one of the nation's longest enduring institutions. The federal mission is to maintain properly trained and equipped units available for prompt mobilization of war, national emergency, or as otherwise needed. They may be at any time called upon to serve our country, protect our lives, and fight for our freedom. The National Guard consists of active Army, the Army National Guard, and the Army Reserves. In the past, Guard units have been deployed to Bosnia, Kosovo for stabilization operations, and as well as the Middle East and other locations involving war on terrorism. Most recently, following the attacks of September 11, 2001, more than 50,000 Guards members were called upon by their states and federal government to provide security at home and combat terrorism abroad. The largest and quickest response to a domestic disaster in history, the Guard deployed more than 50,000 troops in support of the Gulf states following Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Today, tens of thousands of Guard members are serving in harm's way in Iraq and Afghanistan. Without the men and women who serve our country and protect our homeland, the United States would not be a strong nation that it is today. We are defended by the brave volunteers who live up to their motto, always ready, always there. Now I would like to introduce the veterans and those who are currently enlisted in the United States National Guard. Please hold all applause until all the names have been introduced. Jim Day. Whitney Anderson, standing in honor of Andrew Palmer. Brandon Flowers. Kaylee Draper, standing in honor of her brother, Cameron Draper. Jerry Wooten. Joe Lucas. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Courtney Mace, and I would personally like to thank you all for attending our program today. Every year here at Austin High School, we take the time to thank our veterans. One teacher in particular knows how it feels to have a loved one serve in battle. Ulita Turner's father served as an Army corporal in the Korean War. After hearing his stories, Mrs. Turner realized the sacrifice not only her father, but all soldiers give just for us to be free. Wanting to show her gratitude, she put her thank yous in form of a song. Every year, Mrs. Turner is honored to sing the song to you guys. It is my honor to introduce to you our very own Ulita Turner as she sings Defenders of Freedom.
It's such an honor to be able to do this each year for you. And I was sitting back there thinking that I know you say every year how much you enjoy our program and how much it means to you, but I don't think you realize how much this program means to us here at Austin High School too. It's just almost too deep to be able to express in words the gratitude that I see in the faces of our students and the impact that you've had on their lives just by coming here each year. And I want to thank you for that, and thank you for your service for us.
Perfect shining rows of white stones glisten in the sun. They sacrificed at Normandy, Heartbreak Ridge, Iraq, Saigon, heroes of their Constitution's truth. In quiet honor now they lie, though on foreign fields they die, and the flag still flies. Defenders of freedom, defenders of the flag, fighting for the right to worship and believe, the right to realize our dreams, defenders of the flag. Two black granite walls attest to the courage of the brave, the best, who fought for freedom's liberty, to agree or disagree, believers in their Constitution's truth. And unsung heroes live today, from Flanders Fields to the sands of Kuwait. This land of the free is still home of the brave, home of the brave. Defenders of freedom, defenders of the flag, fighting for the right to worship and believe, the right to realize our dreams, defenders of the flag. From the fall of Crispus Attucks and bitter cold at Valley Forge, where the boots rotted from their feet and hunger became their war, from Iwo Jima's immortal flag to the scream of F-16s, thundering over desert sands in defense of liberty. Defenders of freedom, defenders of the flag, fighting for the right to worship and believe, the right to realize our dreams, defenders of the flag, defenders of freedom, defenders of the flag, fighting for the right to worship and believe, the right to realize our dreams, the right to life and liberty, in the pursuit of happiness and peace, defenders of the flag. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hello, my name is Jordan Newton, and today I will be honoring the POWs and MIAs of our nation. 41 years ago, the wife of an MIA, Mrs. Michelle Hoff, felt that POW and MIAs needed to be honored. She contacted the vice president of Annan & Company, Norman Rivkees. He was very sympathetic for the POW and MIAs and helped manufacture a flag in their honor. The official flag would be introduced in 1989 after legislation was passed during the 100th Congress. The POW and MIA flag is primarily black. The center contains a black and white emblem of the National League of POW and MIAs. The emblem itself is white and black. itself is white, a white disc that holds a black silhouette, the bust of a man, a watchtower with a soldier holding a rifle, and a strand of barbed wire. POW and MIA is inscribed above the disc in white letters that frame a white pointed star. Below the disc is a wreath of black and white, and below the wreath is a statement that couldn't be any truer, and that statement says, "You are not forgotten." The POW and MIA flag is flown for 7 days throughout the year. These days include Armed Forces Day, National POW and MIA Recognition Day, Memorial Day, Flag Day, Independence Day, and Veterans Day. As we're gathered here today, we honor those who have fought to give us the freedom that we have. Those words written below the wreath will echo for eternity. You are not forgotten. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kendra Skirvin. I stand before you today giving this speech because I have the freedom to do so. I did not earn this freedom, but the men and women that I see now are some of the people who fought for me and for my freedoms. Me, a complete stranger. Not only me, but our entire country. To you, veterans, the entire American population will forever be grateful. I have the utmost respect for you all and would like to thank you personally for making such an enormous sacrifice. I would like to specifically thank the Scott County veterans. Scott County is a relatively small community, but the sacrifices that these men and women before me have made are not small at all. Each and every one of you played a key role in defending our great nation in times of war. From the beaches of Normandy to the deserts of Iraq, Scott County heroes have bravely served their country. A total of 70 Scott County veterans have paid the ultimate sacrifice, their lives. Of these lives lost, 8 occurred during World War I, 51 in World War II, 6 during the Korean War, and 4 in the Vietnam War. There were also 5 prisoners of war, 3 in World War I and 2 in Vietnam. I will never be able to thank my Scott County heroes enough for all of the sacrifices they made for me and the rest of our country. I, like many others, am forever grateful for Scott County veteran heroes. Heroes. What comes to mind when you hear this? Famous musicians such as George Jones? Or maybe a favorite basketball player like Michael Jordan? If these are your heroes, then you have completely misinterpreted the word. Hero, by the Webster's Dictionary, means one who shows great courage. Don't get me wrong, George Jones and Michael Jordan are pretty great, but would they literally take a bullet for you? I highly doubt it. Our veterans, on the other hand, willingly did this exact thing. Every day they spent in the service, they risked their lives for us, and there are men and women now risking their lives for us. To all of you, we owe an enormous thanks. Again, veterans, I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your sacrifices and dedication. Today is your day. Today we honor all of you wonderful people who have valiantly served our country. We as a community are more than blessed to have fighters like you, our true heroes. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Alyssa Ingalls, and I'm a senior member of the Austin High School Band. I'm proud to be a part of this program which honors the veterans of our county and our country. I'm here to introduce the band, who's under the direction of Mr. Jason Hoagland, and will be playing Armed Forces Salute by Robert Loudon. Loudon composed this song by taking 5 songs that other composers wrote that represented different branches of the military and combining them into one song. The Kazan Song by Edmund Gruber represents the U.S. Army. Semper Paratus by Francis Van Boskirk represents the U.S. Coast Guard. The Marines Hymn by James Offenbach represents the U.S. Marines Corps. The U.S. Air Force by Robert Crawford represents the U.S. Air Force. And finally, Anchors Away by Charles Zimmerman represents the U.S. Navy. We would like to invite you to stand during your branch's song. Jesse Satterwhite, a senior member of the Dimensions Show Choir, will be directing when each song will come up. Thank you.
The Army. The Coast Guard. The Marines. The Air Force. The Navy.
Good afternoon. I'm Jesse Davidson, and this is the part of the program in which we remind ourselves what our country stands for. Freedom. Freedom emphasizes the opportunity to exercise one's rights, powers, and desires. Over 200 years ago, the United States was founded upon this ideal, granting each and every individual their independence. Throughout the years, and still today, in order to maintain independence, many men and women of America have dedicated their lives to defending our country's freedom. Today, let's take time to remember why our troops fight and renew our purpose and maintain a safe and free country. The video you are about to see was created after the events of September 11th. Since then, it has been successfully played every Veterans Day. Its purpose is to remind us to rededicate ourselves to America and its soldiers. This video is dedicated to all veterans, past and present, living and dead. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and my name is Jalen Morse. Here at Austin High School, we have Pride Time, when we take the time to do the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence to honor our veterans. We have been doing this for as long as I can remember, and we're one of the only schools around that still carry on this tradition. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I'd ask everyone to please stand and honor our veterans who have served and are still serving with a moment of silence. Thank you. And I would also ask you to please remain standing and follow a prayer delivered by Heidi Bagley.
Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you today to say thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, who died on the cross to save us from sin by showing us what true love and courage are. We also want to thank you for all the brave veterans who followed in your footsteps by risking their lives, and all the brave men and women currently serving in combat. We want to thank you and pray with open hearts and willing minds that you bless them and their families as they go through their lives. And please do this, Heavenly Father, in many ways. We also ask that you be with them and us today as we present our Veterans Day program and honor the heroic men and women who are and have served our country. Thank you, Heavenly Father. We love you and need you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. You may be seated.
Good afternoon. My name is Olivia Tucker, and as a member of the class of 2013, as well as the band, there's a 24-note song around this time of year that always comes to mind, Taps. Taps was created by General Daniel Butterfield in July of 1862, replacing tattoo as the sound for lights out. The first person to play taps was Oliver Norton from Erie, Pennsylvania. Today, it is used at military ceremonies and concludes many military funerals at Arlington and all around the country. Taps also is sounded at many memorial services throughout Arlington Cemetery. It is my honor to introduce James Stacy and Jacob Barrett, who will be honoring those who have served by playing taps. And please stand as they play taps. Thank you.
Hello, veterans of America. My name is Waylon Smith. Mr. Harold and the class of 2013 would like to thank you for joining us this evening. We would also like to thank Mr. Harold for his hard work, dedication, and endless support in helping the seniors put on the best Veterans Day program possible. In my opinion, as nice as this program is, there's not a reward or celebration that could pay you back for the things you've done for us. You fought for our future, our nation, and all the things that make America great. You left your family, jobs, and homes to ensure our nation's safety, and for that, you shall always be remembered. Without your services, celebrations and days of remembrance would not be possible. We would like to thank the veterans of America for their service to this great nation that we call home. No one can repay you enough for preserving our freedoms and spreading a positive message across the globe. We would like to invite all the veterans and friends to the library for lunch at this time. This concludes the 2012 Veterans Day program. We hope to see you all next year. Thank you again, and God bless. Seniors involved in the program, please stick around for a picture.